The first 6 months of the year are almost over, so it's time to have a flip through to see how the first half of the year went. This journal, however, is not actually one that's mine, but one that I set up for somebody else. In this video, we're going to look at all of the layouts that I set up for them, talking about the reasons that I included those layouts, so without further ado, let's get into it. This one was the Fox notebook from Archer and Olive with the gold embossing and the blue linen cover, but flipping on into it, I left the nameplate open because I wasn't sure who this was going to. This one was actually a giveaway journal that I set up in November last year, and at the time of setting it up, I wasn't too sure who was going to be receiving it, so I just left this one blank. After this though, we are straight on into the start of journal setup, kicking it off with a year at a glance. This one was done just with the free printables that we have in our resource library, and some very pretty PET floral decoration in the back. I know some people were quite upset that I was covering up those beautiful florals with the little stickers, but it's okay, we have more florals to come. I find a year at a glance just really helpful for knowing like when in the year we are. I have a little bit of a hard time judging how much time I have left, whether that be within a month or within the year as a whole, so we have that here as a reference. I figured that our giveaway winner could use this to indicate special days, days of importance, maybe holiday periods, school periods, depending on who won it. In fact, this journal actually did go to a lady who specifically said she wanted to give it to her 13-year-old daughter, so maybe some school-related stuff in this one now. But this layout here is for the future log. We just have a box for each of the months of the year, and technically speaking, it doesn't have to be used as a future log. Realistically, anything could be recorded in here. Maybe it could be like a memory keeper. It could be for setting little goals for each of the months, recording important dates, of course, kind of like a future log would be used for, or anything else that they wanted to record on a monthly basis for the whole year. Now, notably, this journal is actually only for 6 months. It goes from January through to June, but they could always come back after that span of time and fill in the rest of the months if they wanted to. As you can see, we have those florals at the top and the bottom. This theme is one of my all-time favorite themes. I love doing the grid board in the back and then, having the little boxes with the little pegs on the sides. I always think it turns out so pretty and it's really easy to do, which just makes it a winner in my books. Now, going through and setting up this journal, I wanted to be really intentional about including things in here for goal setting. I am a big fan of goal setting. I love the reflection process. I love what it can teach us about ourselves as like goal getters and goal setters. So I wanted to include some specifically structured layouts for that because I know not everybody is as passionate as I am, or they might not necessarily know how to do the reflective processes. This one was set up as a 2024 in review, so we have a space for achievements and memories from the year, any challenges that were faced, any lessons that were learned. We have a little space over here for a level 10 life, but I didn't go in and specify what their life categories were because we're all different. We all have slightly different life categories. And then anything they wanted to keep doing, stop doing, or start doing when moving into 2025. The extra space around the outside, we have those florals. And then after this one, we're into thinking about the 2025 goals. Like, what is it that they wanted to accomplish this year? All of the goal-related sections in this journal are inspired by the content in my Epic Goals course. That one's linked in the description box if you want some more details. But on this one, we have a brainstorming space for anything they think they might want to explore in 2025. I mean, at this point, I hope that they've already used it, so hopefully this page is looking full. Things that they were excited about or get excited about in general, things that they wanted to do, accomplish, or try in the new year. A space to write down any of their values, things that they either value having in their life or upholding in their life. And then also some space for some pain points, so things that were bothering them or things that they were a little uncomfortable with. In particular, stuff that's within their zone of control so that they could do something or set a goal as related to those areas. After doing all that brainstorming, they can then pick out their goals for the year ahead and put those down in the box here. While it's all good and well to set goals though, I wanted to make sure I included some space to plan them out. So on the next spread, we have some goal planning spaces. This is for 2 separate goals, so a spot to write in a title for each of the goals, spaces then to write down what the goals were, why they wanted to work on them, the ideal outcomes for those goals so that they have some specifics to target towards, and then list out any action steps or tasks that they need to do in order to reach those. Now, as said, at the time of setting this up, I wasn't sure who it was going to. I don't know how many goals they have to work on. So on the next spread, I wanted to include an open space that they could use for additional goal plans. Maybe they wanted to set a couple more goals so they could use this layout for those, or if they wanted to set up anything else in their start of journal setup, they could use the page in that way instead. That's the nice part about having these open sections that just don't have titles. They can go and fill it in with whatever they want to. After this one though, we then have some summary boxes. Now I figured that these ones could be used for the 6 months that the journal holds. Maybe this is like media consumed in each of the months. Or maybe if they have some smaller goals, they could break those down in each of the boxes. Again, I wanted this to be a very flexible setup so that they could use it in whatever way they wanted. If I had a layout like this in my start of journal, I would probably use it for each of the months because it's a 6-month journal. So maybe it could be for little memories, it could be for, like we said, media consumed, or as said, they could use it for something completely different. Maybe there are 6 key people in their life, and maybe they want to jot down like wish list ideas for them or something similar. But flipping on over, the next one we have is a 2025 year in pixels, and I specifically set this one up so that it would be a Monday through Sunday rather than a January through July, mostly because I find this style of structure when it comes to a year in pixels just gives us so much more information about stuff that's going on. Like you can find any trends or patterns in terms of what happens across a week, or possibly even within the months if you consider sections of rows within there. A year in pixels does not just have to be used for moods, so I left them a key space that they could fill in, and I also didn't want to dictate any colors that they had to use, because just because I have the pens doesn't mean that they would have the same ones. This way they could use their own markers or their own color system or pattern system to match with whatever they wanted to put in here. On the right hand side though, we have the 25 in 2025, so it's effectively a bingo board that they can fill in with 25 things that they wanted to do or accomplish. Now, given the fact that it is a 6-month journal, they may not have actually completed all of the tasks on here, but it is the kind of thing that they could come back throughout the second half of the year and continue to fill it in if they wanted to, or transfer it to another journal. A layout that I always find so super helpful is the someday maybe list. I personally call mine future me problems, or this year I'm calling it side quests. But this is just to jot down anything that they want to do at some point, but it's not necessarily a this day or this week or even this month task. Any of those tasks or projects that are important enough to get noted down, but they're not so pressing that they need to be done right now. I left the space on this nice and open so that they could use multiple columns if they want to, if they have like a lot of stuff to write down, or just use each of the pages individually with one column on each. Again, we've got the florals and the grid pattern in the back, which I love. And then flipping over, we have some memory keeping pages. These two layouts are ones that I again always include in a New Year setup. So we have the then and again page where they can record their responses to whatever prompt they put in the middle here on the 1st of January and the 30th of June. So the start and end of this notebook. I didn't fill in the prompts for them because again, they are their own person. They have particular things that are going to be of interest to them, of importance to them, anything like that. But the kind of things you could fill in here would be anything you think is going to change across that 6-month period. So that could be things like your current savings amount, a goal you're currently working on, a movie or a TV show or a book that you recently enjoyed, anything along those lines. But just in the little gaps in this center part here, that's where you would record what the prompt is, and then you'd record your response on either side at the relevant points in time. This layout here, I was very proud of myself for setting up so that it matched the theme that we have in the rest of the pages, but this is actually a separate piece of paper that is made to function like a little pocket. That way our giveaway winner could write a letter to themselves and just slip that in there, notably not on the full notepad because we want it to be a little bit hidden. This is a letter to their future self. So maybe some words of wisdom or encouragement that future them can read either at the end of the journal or maybe at the end of the year. I typically set mine up so that I write it at the very start of January for the end of December, but as this is in a 6-month journal, maybe it's just a 6-month time frame instead. Because I already built flexible layouts into the start of journal setup, so we had, the flexible page here and this one here that they can use for whatever they want, then we're into the January pages, and I love this cover page. I haven't been using cover pages in my personal journals like, this year or last year. So getting to set some up in somebody else's journal was very exciting. These are all little PET stickers from the washi tape shop. We do actually have setup videos for all of the layouts that we have in this journal on the channel already. Those ones are linked in the description box below. So if you find a theme in particular that you like and you want to know what materials were used, it's best to jump over to that video because otherwise the description box would be getting very full. But not on this page yet, starting here, because this is the first one. At the start of each month, I wanted to have a this month dashboard. This would just feature 3 separate boxes that they could fill in with stuff that they wanted to either do this month or focus on this month. They could possibly use it as a little kind of like journaling space if they wanted to, so start of the month, middle of the month, end of the month, or section it out into some themed lists, so maybe school, home, work, I don't know. Again, really depended on who this was going to and what their life categories were. I always find that including this kind of a layout next to the cover page means that it gives you a reason to come back and look at the cover page. And you know, the cover page is nice, it's decorative kind of a thing, but oftentimes we don't necessarily come back and look at it all that often. By having something a little bit more functional here that you might want to check back in with means you get to appreciate that cover page a little bit more. After the dashboard and the cover page though, then we are on into the monthly log. And for the monthly setups in this journal, I was actually doing monthlies, not cyclic planning, because I know that the majority of people still use a monthly calendar compared to a 4-week block. One of the things that I was trying out in this style, and something that I've kind of become a little bit more interested in as a result of using it in this journal, is instead of ruling all the lines in, I did that kind of like broken line look where you just hold the pen in your hand and like drag your arm towards yourself to try and keep it relatively straight. But every so often you just lift your pen up off of the notebook and it makes this broken line. It just makes it feel a little bit more light, a little bit more dainty. And I thought that that kind of went nicely with the theme that we've got for this month in particular. I did end up using the broken lines quite a few times in this notebook because I found them to be a little bit of fun. But on this layout, we just have the monthly calendar for each of the days in January, and then the decorative stickers around the outside. I really liked the palette of these ones, I thought they were really pretty. But moving on into some trackers though, I didn't want to call this page a habit tracker or a routines tracker, just because I know that that terminology sometimes doesn't resonate with people very well, so instead I decided to call these ones keeping track. We have one of these style of pages for every month, and each of them is set up in pretty much the same way, just with some different decoration. Each of them features the mini calendar that they can color in when they either do complete or don't complete whatever they're keeping track of, and then each of the highlighted bars is where they can write in that thing that they're keeping track of. I wanted to keep this layout fairly similar each month, just so that they kind of knew what to expect. Like once they've gone in and selected the 8 things they want to keep track of, they know that they will always have 8 spaces in every month moving forward. On the other side of this layout though, we have a 1 line a day page, and I figured that rather than giving them like a very specific reason to use this page, like I don't know, gratitude or the daily highlight or memorable moment or anything like that, I figured a description like 1 line a day is kind of just like, yes, there is 1 line per every day, but they can use it for whatever they want to, whether that be like a daily priority or a memorable moment or something they need to get done, or a typical style of use for this kind of page could be gratitude. Whatever they want to populate it with, the title 1 line a day will still fit. In terms of building flexibility into the monthly pages though, I did make sure to include a full spread each month that was just minimally decorated but really had a lot of open space. I didn't want to use up too much space in putting these decorations in because I don't know what they're going to use the layout for, and I wanted them to have as much space as possible while still being a little bit nice to look at. For this one, I just highlighted the header row and then did the simple border around the outside, along with sticking in a couple of those little PET stickers. Another thing that I also wanted to make sure of is that they had all of their weeklies ready to go. So what I decided to do was use the same style of weekly for every week within 1 month, and then change it up from month to month. So in this month, January, we went with this simple 8-box weekly where we had a little section either down the bottom or in the top corner. It kind of moved around, whereas the other ones were just used for the 7 days of the week. So on this one, we have a little quote saying trust in the magic of new beginnings, because it's supposed to be used at the start of the year, so I thought that was kind of nice. And then the rest of the boxes are just labeled with the day name and the date number. Flipping over, and our little extra box is no longer in the bottom corner, it's now in the top, and this one has been replaced with a this week section. So same layout, just slightly different. We've changed up the decoration a little bit to include it within the daily boxes, And instead of a quote, we have a this week space. Flipping over to the next one though, we have the return of the quote, but this time in the top corner rather than the bottom. This one coming kind of around the middle of the month, so the quote I went with was, "Don't compare your start to someone else's middle." I figured we're still at the very start of the year. This is also around the time where people start to kind of like get a little down on themselves, maybe quit their goals for the year. So a little pick me up, a little reminder to say, hey, it's okay if our start is looking a little bit rocky, a little imperfect. It's our start and we don't need to compare it to anybody else's. As said, what I also wanted to include in this journal was a lot of stuff related to reflection. So because we're at the middle of the month point, that meant a mid-month reflection was necessary. In this one, we have a couple different sections. So wins or achievements from the first half of the month, anything that has been incomplete from the first half of the month, so stuff that we had hoped to get to but haven't yet, any challenges that we faced, anything we learnt from the first half of the month, and then we have stuff that we're taking forward with us, stuff that we're leaving behind. So this could be about mindset or strategy, tactics, anything like that. And then priorities for the end of the month and anything specifically that we want to get done before February. I consider priorities and before February to be a little bit different, mainly because often priorities will be specifically focused on my goals, whereas before February could just be anything that I want to get done before the new month starts. Again, with a little bit of decoration because we want to make it look nice. And then we're back on into the weeklies in that same structure. This time with a this week section, and then if we flip over, we have a little quote section. We don't need perfection to make real progress. So very much a lot of sentiments around the idea of like small steps still add up to big progress. It doesn't need to be perfect for you to get to where you're going, all of that kind of stuff. By this point though, they were at the end of the month, so we have the end of month reflection or January in review, with our little quotes being, "Thanks January, bring on February." In this one, they had space to reflect on their wins from the month, any memories that they had, so memorable moments, anything that felt special. We have a smaller section for challenges, because it's good to acknowledge that we had challenges, but we don't want to dwell on them too much. A larger space for learnings, or what our challenges taught us, or technically also what our wins taught us. A space to write down a highlight from the month, anything they need for the next month, or anything they want to try next month. And then a space that I just called this month, which they could use for anything they wanted to. So it could be like this month in media, this month in events, this month in the habits that hit versus the ones that didn't. Whatever they wanted to use it for. Moving out of January and into February though, so we do have a theme change. And for this one, I went with these like dark kind of Queen of Hearts inspired hearts. I love this tape so much. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. But you'll see that the structure of the pages is fairly similar to what we had in January. So for the dashboard, we again have the 3 sections, this time just with a different theme. So the heart PET stickers, we've got the dark red, we have ruled lines instead of the free-handed ones, and our cover page has also had a change up as well, this time going with a banner down the side and then having that title off center. It was really fun in this month getting to use this tape again because I have used it in my own journal previously, but just getting to use it in a different way because all of the layouts that I'm setting up are different to what I would use. We have the monthly calendar, and a little quote down the bottom, "Talk to yourself like you would someone you love." I thought that the hearts and the self-love quote kind of fit with the idea of like Valentine's, but more specifically Self-Love Day, which I think is the 13th. I can't quite remember right now. But effectively, we're going with a love theme that doesn't necessarily have to be like romantic love, more so the idea of just loving yourself. Because yes, you can and should be your most special person. Flipping on over though, we have the keeping track of page and 1 line a day, this time with the 1 line a day being slightly shorter because we don't have a 31-day month, we have a 28-day month. The actual structure of these pages is the same though, and we just have that change up in the decoration. I do wish that I have rearranged the hearts on this page. I think that having these two next to each other doesn't look quite right, but I would never give away something that I don't like the look of, so I notably liked this one enough to keep it the way it was. Now, having said that, I had a lot of struggles when doing this journal setup. I swear, I made more mistakes in this journal than I usually make in my own. That's probably because I set up all of the layouts at once. Let me know how many of the mistakes you actually notice without me telling you. One of them is a big one, and it is coming up in this month. That one I'll probably point out to you, but here we have the space of infinite possibility, or more so, the spread that is very blank and could be used in whatever way our giveaway winner wanted to. On this one, I didn't end up including a border because I didn't want to box them into any particular use. We just have the decoration in the corners, the highlight at the top, mainly because I wasn't sure that they were going to have the red pen that I have. Like, it's probably pretty unlikely that they have the red pen that I have. So I wanted to make sure that that header bar was in there, and then they could use whatever other pens that they wanted to for the rest of the layout. When it came to the weeklies for this one, I figured I'd go with a style that I've seen on Anna Brun's channel. I really like the idea of it. It's effectively just a pre-designated space for daily logging instead of a more rigid weekly structure. The idea here is that they would write down, first day of the week, Monday, write out any of the tasks that they need, and then wherever that finishes off, then they'll put in the Tuesday header. I figured this was a good opportunity for our winner to experience different styles in terms of their weeklies, mainly so when they come to the second half of the year and are making their own journal, they can just go with whichever one resonated the most, or even design their own layouts if they wanted to. We have week 2, again with just the little decorative pieces, looking cute. And then at that point, we're in the middle of the month, so we have the mid-month reflection, again with those same sections that we saw in January. Doing the smaller pieces of decoration using this tape was a little bit tricky because there are less small elements, a lot of them are quite large, and I didn't want to necessarily cut them all in half and kind of just like Jimmy rigged them to fit in the bottom here, but we have some smaller pieces, which I still think are pretty cute. And then we're into the next week, and what should come after this is the next week, but instead I was distracted and set up February in review. Now, the sections on here are the same as what we had before, just slightly rearranged. So the highlight section is down the bottom here instead of up the top, just so that then I could do a smaller amount of decoration over here. As said, this PET tape doesn't necessarily have a lot of smaller elements, but the big issue here, ignoring this layout, is that we have 1 week, we don't have the next week. So I did think about it like, I could stick these pages together and then reset it up, but realistically I just didn't have the time to do it. I feel a little bit bad about it. I really should have just, paid more attention or something, but I did put the weekly in after this. It's a little bit unfortunate that it comes after the month in review, but it is also one of those things that notes that just because you've been doing this for a while doesn't mean that mistakes don't happen. And also, once they get beyond February, all of the pages there on out are in the right spot with the right number of weeks. I find that, for instance, when I first started using my journal, this kind of thing would bother the ever-loving heck out of me, like to the extent where I would be, in a mood for several days. But it's one of those things, like, will this matter in 5 minutes? Yes, probably, because within the 5 minutes of realizing this, you won't have actually gotten past the week and you still need to set it up and stuff like that. Will this matter in 5 weeks? No, in 5 weeks we're going to be like down here in the journal and we won't even remember this. Okay, you probably remember it, but still, it won't matter as much. And in 5 years, yeah, definitely won't matter anymore. Trying to give myself a little bit of grace with that stuff up, even though I don't feel great about it. After this though, we are into March, which has this cakes theme. I thought these stickers were so cute. I do wish that I had more of them because it would be nice to have a little bit more variance in the decoration throughout the month, but I in particular wanted to keep within the color palette of the kind of like brown and pink and red. So you see, for this theme we do have the return of that dashed line instead of the full ruled border. We have the this month section with the 3 separate boxes, and then for the cover page here I focused mainly on corner decoration and then put that header in the middle of the page again. Because my lettering was a little bit off center, we ended up with a little heart here, but I figured that matched the decoration we have, which also has hearts in it, so no harm, no foul. When we flip on over to the calendar though, this was one of the months that had 6 weeks rather than just 5, which is part of the reason why I changed to cyclic planning, because I never have that problem anymore. But I thought I did a fairly good job of giving them the same amount of writing space on this calendar as I did on the previous ones as well. Like if we flip back to the February calendar, we have 6 rows here, we have 6 rows here as well, so still a predictable amount of space for them to use when they're doing their monthly setup. On this one you can see we have a lot of different baking elements. We have our little baker here preparing some cookies, and then we're on to the keeping track of page and the 1 line a day. This one with the same dimensions as we had in January because 31 days, and the same general outline for this one because I wanted to make sure we still have 8 calendars. Now on these ones, to make sure that everything actually fit properly, I had to go with what I call like the stacked day as opposed to the hanging day. So rather than the 31st being at the bottom of the calendar like we have on the monthly log here, instead I've just moved that last day up to the top so it only goes across 5 rows. This is typically how I handle calendars like this in my own journal. Like back when I was doing monthly planning, I would usually just put that 31st or 30th and 31st if need be on top of the calendar, mainly because that's how I found pre-printed calendars would have it while I was growing up. So I've kind of grown up with that, it doesn't really bother me. But flipping over, we have our space of infinite possibility, this time with a different little person, them being like a, I don't know, front of house wait staff or something like that, possibly working in the coffee shop attached to the bakery for our other little person. But for the weekly style in this one, we went with something a little different, so effectively a horizontal style more so than a vertical style. Every weekly just has these 8 boxes with the notes section down the bottom and then the little pieces of decoration alternating their sides going from top to bottom. I thought this was just a really cute style. It also meant that I got to stick in heaps of these little stickers and also play around with that dashed line again, which I think it makes it look less heavy and more dainty, and it's kind of pretty. For the mid-month review, thankfully this sticker set had lots of those little stickers, so I could put them along the bottom of both of these pages. In particular, having the cupcakes over here because they were just a little bit shorter and these boxes were a little bit bigger. Same sections as before though, we have achieved, incomplete, challenges, learnings, taking forward, leaving behind, priorities, and then a before April section. I did very well this month to make sure that I didn't stuff up the placement of the weeks. So we have the 17th through to the 23rd, and then we have the 24th through to the 30th. Now, because the next week has the 31st in it, and only the 31st, I put that week in the next month, because the majority of the days in that week do fall in April, so it makes more sense for that weekly to be with April. Flipping over though, we cannot finish the month without an end of month review, this time with both of our 2 little people and our little utensils and sprinkles. I just thought it was very cute. I also stuck a couple little hearts in the boxes because I just thought they looked sweet. And then at this point, we're at the end of the quarter. Now, when I do my goal setting, I like to do it quarterly. I find that focusing on 90 days is just way easier than focusing on the whole year or even 6 months. So I wanted to make sure I put in a quarterly review as well. This one has a couple of similar sections to those monthly reviews, but rather than just looking at the month, we're looking back at the last 3. The sections I included on here were the goals worked on, so over those 3 months, what has actually been focused on, but also what other projects came up too. Just because we set goals for ourselves doesn't mean there aren't other things that are taking our time, effort, and attention, and it's good to honor the fact that we also did some effort on those too. At the bottom here, we have a space to record milestones and wins, challenges, and also the approaches to those challenges. It's all good and well to acknowledge the fact that challenges were faced, but it's even more important to consider how do we respond to those, and were those responses actually as beneficial as we had hoped? Sometimes we don't necessarily hope for them to be helpful, we just kind of respond and then ignore. But this kind of review makes us pay attention to those and consider, could I respond differently next time, and make that something that is going to be more helpful for long-term progress. On the right-hand side though, we have tactics that worked, so thinking about those approaches, which ones in particular were the good ones that we're going to keep on with, or even just goal-getting strategies in general. There's a box for thoughts and musings, which is effectively just a place for anything else they want to jot down, and then we have a space to write out any ideas for quarter 2, including anything they're looking forward to, and anything they're nervous about. I wanted the quarter 1 review to stand out from the months, so instead of using the same theme that I'd used for March, or the theme that I used for April, I went instead with this orange and blue theme, mainly because of the stickers that I used on the page, which say, remember why you started, and when nothing goes right, go left. Flipping over though, and getting into April, I love these stickers so much, they're so shiny, look at that, look at that! Oh my gosh. Anyway, so for April we went green, mainly because I'm just weirdly super against having March as green, because it feels like every single planner uses a green color palette for March and I refuse. But for this one we are using these green botanical stickers with the gold line work, which are very gorgeous. So I stuck 1 each on the this month boxes, and then for our cover page I went with this kind of top and tail approach, just making it look like there was kind of a bar going through the middle of them for our actual header, and then those leaves sticking out the top and the bottom. Very pretty, so shiny. But moving on, this one I actually found quite tricky to decorate because notably the leaf stickers are a very set size. There aren't any kind of much larger pieces or much smaller pieces. So once I went and put in the calendar grid, I then was trying to stick them around the outside so it kind of looked a little bit similar to what we had in January. Like if you flip back, you can kind of see like, you know, parts sticking out the side here and such. But because the January stickers have such a variety in size, like we've got the smaller ones and the larger ones, it's a lot easier to fill in spaces like this where we don't have those additional days on the last row or at the top either. So I did find it a little bit challenging to do this one and still make it kind of look balanced. I think I did an okay job. I probably could have done better. I don't know. It's still really pretty. I love the gold, and it also means that if they want to add down any notes or a quote or anything like that, they can use the additional space to put that in there. After the monthly log though, we are into the keeping track and 1 line a day, again decorated with our little stickers. Here you can see the actual kind of like size of the stickers and why maybe I had such difficulty in these larger open spaces, but I do love that there's such variety in the stickers. There's a lot of different designs of the little botanicals, so we've got different sized and shaped leaves. It means that on any given layout you can get, you know, good variety. You don't feel like you're doubling up on anything. And then after this one, we of course have our space of possibilities, just with minimal decoration in the corners, so it is nice and open, can be used for anything they needed. If you're wondering what they would include on a layout like this, we have a lot of different options on the channel, but just to list some, maybe this is a space for a vision board for the month, maybe it's for general notes and brainstorming, maybe they want to print off little book covers and include the books or media that they consumed in the month. Given the fact that this is supposedly going to a 13-year-old, maybe it's a homework tracker, or a space to put in some kind of like after-school sports schedule or something like that. It's been a hot minute since I was 13. I don't really know what I would have appreciated back then. I could hazard a guess, but it would take much more brain power than I'm going to put in right now. When it came to the weeklies on this one, I went with a layout style that I have used time and time again in Rachel's journal. I actually used these stickers in Rachel's journal as well, so it kind of felt like a nice throwback. But effectively, for each of the weeks, we have a section on the left here, which has each day of the week separated across, so in this kind of like horizontal section, and then a space for an open task list on the right. This one's separated into 2 columns, so ample space to write down anything they need to, and then just that simple decoration in the corner to bring a little bit more green to the page. We have the first week here, and then the second week. At the end of the second week, we're on to the 13th, which means that after this one, we get into that mid-month review. On this one, so that I didn't have like a weird amount of small space down the side here, or rather a piece of space that I couldn't really easily decorate in, I did decide to make this box just a little bit longer on this one. But we have the same sections as last month, and then we have the remaining weeklies for the month. So 14th to the 20th, again with like different leaf decoration each week. And then we have the 21st to the 27th. After this, the next week is primarily in May, so we're on to our end of month reflection, or April in review. Thanks April, bring on May. Hopefully it's been obvious that I really tried to change up the color palettes moving from month to month. So like this one was green, and then the one we had before that was kind of like that pink tone, and the one we had before that was that gray, red, black kind of tone. So getting from April into May, the next one we went with was a bit of a mixed bag in terms of the actual stickers. These ones were a books and cat set from the washi tape shop, but because each roll of stickers had a different color palette itself, I tried to make sure to stick with just one roll per spread. So this first one is the purple and green color palette, but that doesn't mean we have purple and green the whole way through the month. Having a look at this spread though, we have the little books and cats down the bottom, very sweet. And then because they were taking up the majority of the bottom section and I didn't want to just repeat it on the top, I just raised that header so it fell a little bit higher than the center of the page, just to kind of help with the balancing. We have our cute little cats here in the boxes, and then flipping on over, we have the monthly log. Now I did have a little mishap with the side of the calendar here. I managed to put the line in the wrong place. I don't actually know how that happened. So what I did was just add a skinny bar down the side of the calendar to indicate what week number we're up to. Effectively, it's that information that we have on the year at a glance along the side of each of the calendars here, just put onto the monthly log. In terms of our little decorative pieces though, this one I went with the roll that has a more kind of like orange and blue color palette, also with some kind of like gold or yellow, and just sprinkled our little cats and books around the outside. One of the things that I made sure to do when I kind of bundled up the giveaway package was include a lot of extra pieces of tape, so that then if our giveaway winner wanted to do extra decoration, like maybe if they wanted to fill some space along here, they had the tapes to be able to do that. Just means that they can add some personal touches to their journal. But our keeping track of page, this one we had the, I think, orange and green colorway for the cats. I love their little faces. They look so derpy. It's really cute. And then we also have the 1 line a day, and I stuck a little sticker up the top here to add a little bit of decoration up there too. And then our 4th colorway is a kind of like red and orange color palette. Because I liked the idea of the cats kind of sitting at the bottom of the boxes, I put both of them along the bottom of this spread. But of course, as said, I also gave our giveaway winner a lot of the extra stickers from this set, so they could add extra decoration if they wanted to. Flipping over, we are into the weeklies. These ones being a little bit interesting because I tried to change it up every week, but it was a little bit tricky to get the spacing right. Like, nothing's wrong by any means, it's just actually trying to get some variation in them proved to be more challenging than I initially thought it was going to be. So on this layout we have a box for each of the days of the week, we have the 2 spaces of decoration here, and then a combined box at the bottom for a little space for each of the days. So maybe this could be for like key events or a meal plan or something like that. And then these ones could all be for the task lists. I didn't go and add any very specific headers in, just keeping it to this week, so it can be used for whatever they wanted to. Going from this one onto the next though, you can see how we've changed it up just a little bit. So instead of 2 panels of decoration, we now have a note space. The combined section is still down the bottom here, and this time with the cheeky little cats with the blue and yellow and orange colorway. At this point we're only on to the 11th, so after this one we have another week, this one going to the 18th, and you can see the 2 panels of decoration have been combined into one larger section, and then that combined section is over here now. So just playing around, tweaking around with where certain things were. You can effectively think of this layout as a 6 box per page weekly. So if you consider for this one in particular, we have 3 at the top and 3 at the bottom. So I've just combined these 2 together, and then 3 at the top, 3 at the bottom, but I've combined these 3 together. Flipping on over though, we are into the mid-month review, where we get to see a lot more of the color palette from that red and orange set, because we only had like 2 stickers on the last time we saw it. I'm not really much of an animals person, which is why I haven't used this tape in my own journal, but I certainly hope that our giveaway winner likes cats, otherwise it's like a whole month of cats, and they might not like cats, so fingers crossed that they liked cats. But on to the next one. Here you can see we have a similar thing again. We've got those 2 combined decorative sections, and then the this week section over here. And then on to the next week, we have the decoration in 3 separate sections, and then a larger this week panel down the side. I think it's just nice to kind of highlight that, like, the actual kind of bones or skeleton of the layout is effectively the same, like 3 boxes, same again. But what you actually do with it can be quite different, just depending on how you combine things together, what things you actually choose to include, anything like that. Onto the next spread though, we have our May in review, this time with the green, orange and yellow cats. And then we're into one of my favorite months from this journal, which is June. I don't know what it is about this tape, and this yellow in particular, but I absolutely love it. I'm not really much of a yellow fan normally, so I don't really understand why I like it as much as I do. I'm not going to snub my nose at it though, because I do really like it. I think that this wreath turned out really cute. This one was effectively done just by penciling in a circle and then laying the PET florals in a way that made the ring shape. I think it turned out really well. But after our dashboard and our cover page, we have our monthly log, again with 6 weeks instead of 5. For this one, I laid down some decoration along the side and then some smaller pieces at the top and bottom. But this part I thought it'd be nice to add in another quote, this one saying, "Be patient with yourself, nothing in nature blooms all year." I figured by this point we're like, 5 getting on to 6 months into the year, it'd be good for a little reminder that all of that motivation and kind of vigor that we started the year with, it might have kind of petered out by now. We might be thinking like, oh gosh, I'm never going to accomplish those things that I set out for myself. I'm feeling a little bit more low motivation or whatnot. It's nice to sprinkle these kind of reminders into our journal. I need to do more of it in mine, honestly, but keeping track, I had a little bit of fun with the decoration on this one, because normally my default would just be to use these larger pieces that have like, a chunk of florals together or whatnot. But that often means that when it comes to the end of the roll of these PET florals, I have all of these smaller elements that I haven't really utilized, so I wanted to intentionally use them on this layout here. It was a fun little experiment. I think it's kind of cute that they each have like the same general structure of like, 4 florals or 2 combined to have these larger pieces. But we have the 1 line a day with a little bouquet. Then we have our, space of infinite possibilities just with some vases. And then after this, we are into the weeklies. This style being another 6-box weekly, quote, quote. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just with these 2 combined together. And then similar again on this side, but with the this week being 2 of those sections, and then the decoration being another 1 section. Again, with this style of layout, there are a lot of different ways that you could utilize it. So you see on this one, I've combined these 2 sections together and then had that one by itself, combining these 2 sections for the this week space. But then after this one, we have our mid-month review. I tried to make sure that the mid-month review was as close to whichever week has the 15th as possible, or whichever week has the middle of the month, depending on the month. But because the Sunday is the 15th here, it means that right on Sunday, you're probably doing that mid-month review, so we'd want that space here. We have a few little pieces of decoration down the bottom, and then onto this weekly, you can see that rather than having the decoration in any combined sections, I just spread them out throughout the page so that we have a little sprinkling. The this week still has 2 sections together, and then each day of the week has its own section. And then for the next week, we have, again, 3 individual sections, this week combined, and then the 7 daily boxes. I really like this style because you don't have to rule any lines, especially given that this was the last month that I set up in this journal, and I set all of them up across a span of like 4 days. I was kind of getting a little tired of doing ruling lines, but I think it's kind of nice. It fits with the theme. It feels very open and airy, just bright and cheerful, and I appreciate that. We have the June in review, which I did opt to use the boxes for, mainly because it's just a little easier to see where each of the sections are. It's not quite as uniform as our weekly layouts are. And then some decoration in the corner with the vases, and because at this point we're at the end of a quarter, it means we need a quarterly check-in. I decided to use the same theme for the quarterly check-in, so that orange and blue color palette, and with pretty similar sections, but this time not including the quarter 3 box, because at this point we only have a small amount of space in the back of the journal. I did put in a page for them to do some pen testing if they wanted to, but anything else that they would set up for their goals, unless they're using these pages here, is probably going to go into their next journal. Setting up this journal was a very fun challenge, and I really hope that our giveaway winner liked it. If you wanted to see more flip throughs from me though, then this playlist is the next one to check out. That one has all of my other journals that we've flipped through on the channel, so click or tap on that one and I'll see you over there.